At exactly 2:15 a.m. on a steel bridge over the Dnipro River, the darkness was split by the metallic rumble of engines. A Russian convoy, stretching more than 5 miles, rolled forward like an armored serpent. Over 500 vehicles packed with ammunition, fuel, and command equipment. These supplies were meant to sustain more than 2,000 troops dug in across the southern front. Above the convoy, Nebo-M radar swept the sky in perfect mechanical rhythm to one pulse every 3 seconds, capable of tracking anything the size of a baseball. Panzer S-1 air defense systems, each armed with missiles and autocannons, sat ready to strike at anything that moved. On paper, it was an impregnable fortress of steel, electronics, and discipline. But beneath the bridge in silence, as something else waited. Clamped to the cold beams below were 12 Ukrainian FPV drones, dormant for 72 hours. Each cost less than $600, each carrying a PG-7VL warhead capable of punching through 12 inches of reinforced concrete. These weren't guided by radio, or GPS, or any signal that could be jammed. They used onboard LAR mapping and encrypted wake commands. No pilots, no beacons, only algorithms and patience. For 3 days, they slept under Russian wheels. Then, the flaw appeared. A string of cheap truck tires burst, forcing the convoy to slow. In seconds, hundreds of vehicles were trapped in the worst possible place, a perfect choke point, 500 yards from the kill zone. From a hidden command post, a single Ukrainian operator pressed one key. Under the bridge, 12 green lights blinked to life. The drones detached, dropped, and in perfect synchronization, their motors hummed a sound lost under the grinding of truck engines above. They hugged the concrete supports, flying in tight formation, invisible to the radar systems that looked everywhere but down. The first wave of 6 turned toward the ammunition trucks. The second, toward the fuel tankers. The final 2, toward the command vehicles leading the column. At first, no one noticed. Then, inside one Panzer, a Russian lieutenant detected faint interference on his screen. He switched from passive to active radar and saw a strange echo under the bridge. Seconds later, a 57E-6 missile launched. It hit something small and fast, a Ukrainian decoy drone, programmed to die first. The explosion lit up the night sky, sending a 30-foot flame upward. That one blast was enough to break the illusion of safety. Engines stalled. Horns blared. Vehicles crashed into each other in panic. The 5-mile column twisted into chaos. And below, the real drones pulled back under the bridge, alive and unseen. Russian defenses scrambled. The radar screens filled with static as Drone 3 activated its onboard X-band jammer, blinding the Panzer units. 40 miles north, an An-50 radar aircraft picked up unusual heat patterns and tried to transmit a targeting feed. One of the drones, a Drone 9, was detected, and a Torrent system fired a missile at 1,850 miles per hour. But the drone deployed a fiber optic decoy, simulating a larger target. The missile veered, detonated in midair. The real drone survived. For a heartbeat, silence returned. Then, the final signal came from the Ukrainian bunker. The operator pressed execute. 11 drones powered back on, no longer hiding. They launched straight upward at full throttle, closing the final to 100 yards in under 6 seconds. The kill phase had begun. The first drone struck directly below an ammunition truck loaded with mortar shells. Its warhead detonated with a 1.1-second delay, piercing through concrete, sending 4,000 psi of force through the bridge. The explosion reflected off the river's surface, doubling the pressure, tearing through the steel supports. In the next 1.3 seconds, 7 more drones hit. One struck a JP-8 fuel tanker, igniting a 30-foot fireball. 2 hit side by side, under twin tankers. Another struck a mobile command post. Each impact was timed to overlap, each shockwave amplifying the next. Concrete split. Flames erupted. The bridge began to shudder. The last 4 drones targeted the main supports. Their warheads detonated in sequence, hammering the structure laterally until the southern span cracked and folded. At 3:47 a.m., the bridge deck gave way. More than 40 vehicles plunged into the inferno below. The first Ural truck carrying mortar rounds struck the crater and exploded. The blast ignited to nearby trucks loaded with artillery shells. Heat surged beyond 120 and shockwaves shattered windows a mile away. Flames rolled through ruptured fuel lines. Tankers exploded one after another, turning the entire bridge into a burning sky. A nearby Panzer tried to move but was trapped. It fired blindly into the smoke, then vanished in a flash as another ammunition truck detonated beside it. By 3:48 a.m., The southern span was gone and nothing but twisted steel and molten concrete. Black smoke climbed 80 feet high. The convoy's radio network failed. Command vehicles were gone. Out of 300 vehicles, over 110 were confirmed destroyed or immobilized. At dawn, satellite images revealed a half-mile of wreckage on both sides of the river. Seismic monitors 3.5 miles away recorded the collapse as a 2.6 magnitude event. But the true shock was strategic. Over 2 million pounds of ammunition and fuel gone. The entire supply artery for the southern sector severed in one night. The consequences came fast. Artillery units ran out of shells within 48 hours. Mechanized units stalled without fuel. The next alternative bridge required a 58-mile detour through territory already targeted by HIMARS. It was a shooting gallery. By the third day, Russian communication lines thinned out. Positions were abandoned. Ukrainian brigades advanced to probing, attacking, reclaiming ground near Orikhiv and Robotyne. Within 72 hours, the southern front was silent. This was not just a tactical strike, it was a message. For less than $1,000 in hardware, Ukraine had inflicted over $300 million in damage and paralyzed an entire division. No tanks, no aircraft, no artillery barrages, just drones, data, and perfect timing. This night revealed the future of warfare. Power no longer belongs to the biggest army, it belongs to whoever masters asymmetry, whoever turns code into a weapon. The Russians prepared for air superiority battles, for missiles, for massive offensives. But they didn't prepare for the silent enemy sleeping beneath their bridge. This was a war fought not in the skies, but in the shadows between algorithms where software decides who survives. The lesson is simple and terrifying. The deadliest weapon of the 21st century is the one that roars. It's the one that waits. So when the Nitro River Bridge fell, it wasn't just a bridge that collapsed, it was an entire doctrine. A belief that numbers and armor guarantee control. That night proved otherwise. If a handful of small, autonomous drones can dismantle a division, what happens when entire armies learn to fight like that? When intelligence, timing, and adaptation replace brute strength. The war is changing, not with explosions, but with ideas. And in this new kind of war, the quiet hum beneath the bridge may be the loudest sound of all. Beyond immediate military calculations, the incident also exposed deeper systemic vulnerabilities that ripple through politics and societies. Governments dependent on industrial supply chains and predictable logistics must now contend with an adversary that weaponizes asymmetry and surprise insurance underwriters, contractors, and local authorities recalibrate risk assessments, and civilian morale reacts to a new image of vulnerability. Military planners will debate protective doctrines, whether to bury critical supply routes, increase dispersion, or redesign redundancy into every convoy, but those choices carry economic and political costs. At the human level, ordinary drivers, engineers, and logisticians become frontline actors whose mistakes or equipment failures can decide battles. Commanders must weigh whether concentrating power at a single crossing is ever worth the existential risk it now represents. In short, the fall of one bridge forces a strategic rethink. Defense is no longer only about more steel or louder guns, but about humility, adaptability, and the capacity to anticipate the quiet threats that modern technology enables.